What's up, Wholesale Nation? Welcome to the show. This is Undrea King.
And I'm Andy Speed.
And today we have a fun show for you today. This is going to be our best one yet. For those in the Houston market, you're going to know this guy, AC Ramos. For those that are not in the Houston market, this guy is legendary here in the Houston market. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, absolutely. I knew who AC was long before I'd ever seen him.
Right. So before you even seen him, his name kind of spoke for himself because he had a lot of people that he's helped over the past years, he's been helping a lot of people. And because of that, that he has a name that's out there. So definitely this was an honor to be able to interview him. But before we get into that, I know that, over the past week, this has been the beginning of the year for us. And there's a lot of, Houston. I mean, how many network events do you think we have in our market?
Average 2-3 a week.
2 to 3 a week.
In the evenings, there's multiple in the day. There's some that are every week. There's a lot of networking.
Right. So there's something going on like every day, right? So
It's like a cruise ship.
Yeah.
There's always an opportunity to eat.
Right.
That's Houston. I mean, you can go to a different networking event and you can, get 3 square meals a day.
Yeah, and get some drinks also. So if you want, and it was so funny. We were in San Antonio last week, and I ran into a guy, and that's exactly what he was doing. Like I asked him, like, "What do you do in real estate?" And he went roundabout and said, "Well, his parents are into real estate back in the 1950s or something." And he went on to talk, and I was still trying to figure out, like, what do you do in real estate? And he said, "Well, I just like coming to these things." He said, "Yeah, there's another one." He was giving me all the events. But he said he just likes to go and talk to the people that are there. All right. And he said, "Oh, by the way, sometimes, the women are like educated and, and they're doing well." I was like, okay.
He's there to eat and meet women.
That's basically what he was there to do. And so if you don't have anything to do, we do the same thing at our meetup. So you can come out. We have free food. We have free drinks. So if you want to come meet some people and find a date or something like that, you can come out to our event as well.
I thought for a second you were saying that's what we do.
Get free food, free drinks.
No, so we go there for we have an agenda in mind when we go. So you went to one a few days ago, right?
Monday.
Right.
Yeah, so Monday, went to a networking event, got to meet some people, got out of our circle. It seems like everybody knows everybody in real estate, but there's circles. There's these strange circles. So we got outside of our circle a little bit, got to meet a few people, a couple of buyers, a couple of lenders, some guys that were pretty eager, owner finance buyer that looks real promising, and we may be able to help him build out his portfolio. So met a few good people, got to have a great time, met with our realtor for a little bit. He gave me some updates on some listings we have, and it was a great event. It was a smaller event than normal. There was probably 25, 30 people there, but I was a little discouraged when I first got there. I was looking forward to, seeing a bunch of people, but we got, deeper connections. I got the opportunity to spend 10, 15 minutes with each person that I spoke with and really got to know their businesses, what they're looking for, and how we help them. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have an agenda. I wish I could have been there, but I was playing Mr. Mom that night, so I couldn't get there. But, you got to have an agenda when you go to these networking events. If it's just to go meet people and drink the free drinks, have an agenda behind that also, right? But you got to have an agenda of what you want out of it. Look for the person that you can partner with, whether it's looking for wholesale deals, looking for buyers, looking for private money. Use it for that, because that's what everyone else is there for, hopefully.
Well, and the whole truth is I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to go, I knew that I was going to go out last night, meet with my brother. I meet with him once a month.
Right.
And so I knew that was going to go well into 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I'm ready to go to bed at 9. So I knew I'd be tired, and I knew we had one tonight. And then tomorrow night, I'm going to be out as well with my daughter. We've got a little date night. But if I'm going to go, I'm going to make the most of it. So I think did that, and I'm looking forward to the next one tonight.
Right. Perfect. And so that takes us to our next segment. And this next segment, it kind of plays on what we talked about in our interview with AC is, and don't be that guy. And so what I have here is don't be that guy that is all about education and never is a doer. Right? Doesn't take action. Right. And Andy, I'm pretty sure over time in our meetup, we've seen people that are like, that
they know everything about the business, but they've experienced none of it.
Right. And literally they can teach it, right? They can teach everything, every aspect of it, but they just can't teach the results because they've never done it. Right.
When you listen to AC, you hear in his story, it's the action, it's the doing. He does provide education. He's probably had more than a lifetime of experience of buying houses. So there's not much that he doesn't know when he's actively doing it, but he is a doer, and he coaches doers.
Right. And you're going to hear that in the interview also. So yeah, if you're that guy, then the main thing there is go do it, right? So you want to have some education because you don't want to go into the business ignorant, right? But as soon as you get a little bit, then you need to get into it and put it to action. You're going to hear a lot about that in our interview today about somebody who just went and did it and got it done, right? So without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and bring on Mr. AC Ramos. What's up, Wholesale Nation? Andre King, excited to be here. We got exciting guests here. We got AC Ramos here. Now, AC, is it Ramos or Ramos? I want to make sure I get it correct. We're in Houston, so I want to make sure we get it correct.
I respond to either one. Tomato.
Right.
My family goes by Ramos, but most people say Ramos.
Right. You know, because I hear it both ways here. Right.
So you got Undrea/Andrea.
Yeah,
over
I
here, so
get.
he's pretty used to it.
Yeah, I get that a
Abe
lot.
knows it off.
Right.
Because I was thrown off too.
Yeah. It gets everybody.
Yeah.
I switched up between Undrea and Andre for a while. Like I wasn't sure, so I just kind of went back and forth.
Yeah. And just like you, I answer to it all. Right.
I'm
So
pretty laid back.
If you're in the Houston market, then you know AC. You can't be in the Houston market for more than a couple of months before you run across somebody that's been through his program, that's worked with him. It seems to be that you've been around for a while. So, I mean, you can't go. It's like the Kevin Bacon game here in Houston. So you can't go within 2 or 3 people and not have somebody that's connected to AC. So we're really excited to have you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely wanted to have you on here. And so the OG, so legendary. And like you said, you know, anytime, you know, when I first got started, that's the name that I heard was AC Ramos. And so I say, you know, who is this guy? But for whatever reason, I couldn't get in the same circle. Like, where is he at? You know, but but I know you were out there working and running and gunning, but we're definitely glad to have you in the house today. So I know our listeners are going to get a treat today, but I know you have an amazing story of how you got started in this business and where you're at now. So how about we get started with that? So, you know, so who is AC Ramos? How did you get started into this business and where are you at now?
Well, awesome. That's a interesting question there right there yourself. So I guess I kind of got thrown into the real estate stuff by choice, but kind of by accident. I was coming out of prison for my second time, actually, and I was like 21, 22 years old, and I was actually supposed to be in longer, and my judge had lowered my sentence, so we went back with my lawyer, everything, and they reduced it from 2 years to 7 months since I was going to have a kid, and we had to, beg pretty much. Right. It worked out, and having a kid is what completely changed my life. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure you know that when you have children, you'll do more for somebody else, or especially your children, than you ever will for yourself. So knowing that I was going to be a father, and then especially when he was born, so I got out after 7 months, and literally I found out right before I went in. So it all worked out. So he was born in 2 months later in September. Right. And once he was really there and really born, and you see this child and you have responsibilities, I knew I never wanted to take a chance of ever being away from that, right? Be taken away from your family or anything. Because before that, it didn't matter. Right. And so from that point on, I started realizing that I had to find a way to replace the income that I was making in another way. So imagine it was a much faster income that you had, and maybe some large sums or something like that. It was. I thought that was the ultimate, right? You make a lot of money like that, and you're like, from the time you're like 17. Right. So what I did is I went to visit my friend who I actually rented the house from, or compensated him for using his house to run the business out of. Mm-hmm. So we paid for everything, took care of everything, and me and him ran everything out of that house. So when I went to prison, everything fell apart, he said. And when I came out and talked to him, he's like, man, when you went away, the house is in foreclosure. My car got repoed. Oh. Our friends don't talk to us anymore that we used to know, that were our best friends, supposedly. So there was another company there that little short, ugly dude walking around giving quotes on houses. But he walked around, and I think he might have been carrying like a club or something. And he was talking about his estimate with my friend. He said, man, I just knew a little bit about real estate, and knew the houses just from studying a little bit, knew the houses I thought were worth about $70,000 in the neighborhood. They had told him right there in front of me, they said, look, and he owed 28. Mm-hmm. They said, we'll give you 27,000 cash. And he told him, he said, man, I owe 28. Give me 28. It's yours, man. I'll walk away. And they said, oh, we can't do that. You got to come up with the other 1,000 and bring it to closing. And I was like, I said, don't sign it. Don't sign it. I said, I don't care what I got to do. I will get you more than that.
Right.
And I went and talked to a family member, and my family member actually went in on the deal with me, and we paid him $33,000 to buy the house, and we put $22,000 into fixing it.
Right.
And we ended up selling it for $84,000. So we bought it on January. What was it? December of '99. I don't remember the exact date. And we sold it on March 10th of 2000. That was my first flip ever. And we sold it for $84,000. We're in it for $55 total.
Yeah. So I guess the internet was probably barely working around that time. So I assume you weren't like, did you look up like YouTube, or you just figured this out?
Actually, I looked up Russ Whitney classes online.
Okay, Russ Whitney.
You could probably just Google like how to sell properties, and he probably just bounced up first person because no one else doing it.
Infomercials back then, and then so that's where I kind of got the idea from. And then I did that, and I didn't know anything about it.
Right.
And I did that that was in 2000, the first one. Did that till about 2003. Me and my aunt partnered on houses and stuff. Bought them, fixed them up, sold them. And we got stuck in one in 2003 that we bought for too much, and we put too much into repairs.
Okay.
Rookie mistake or just the uneducated mistake, right?
Right.
So we did that, and then we ended up selling it owner finance. So we weren't going to get our money back. And we were using her IRA or 401k. I don't remember what it was, but I didn't even know about private money and what I was doing back then.
Right.
Just we were doing it.
You just do.
Yeah.
And so that was all the money I knew about. I didn't know about hard money, nothing like that. So we get stuck in this deal now, and we sell it owner finance. We're not getting our money for 4 years.
Right.
So now, we're getting payments and stuff. We're not getting money for 4 years. Of course, that's all your working capital, and I don't know about wholesaling yet.
Right.
So I ended up losing the townhouse that we were staying in, and me and my wife and my first son have to move into a storage room, 12 by 12, literally move the lawnmowers out, put carpet down, and a window unit, air conditioner, heater, and moved in with my wife and my son.
Wow.
And was there for probably about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then it had cable. It was a really nice set. I ran cable from the house. It had the internet.
Out the window, around the corner.
And it had a little desk set up in there.
You made it work.
Right.
And Dell, like this guy Dell, gave me an awesome computer for like $19 a month. I don't know.
Oh, you did one of those,
huh?
Yeah, I think I had a gateway back then or something.
So I had the setup there, and then I see this infomercial at night. Like, do you want to flip houses and you have no money, no credit? And I was like, that's me. And,
you must have knew.
Yeah, I went to it, and I convinced my aunt to go with me, and that was like a 2-hour one, and then ended up going to the 1-day one, and then the 3-day one.
Right.
And the 3-day one was the one that was expensive for mentoring, coaching for 3 days, and back then it was like $30,000 for just that one.
Wow.
And they started at $70,000 when I went to the 1-day thing. And I didn't have it. My aunt didn't have it either. And we were walking away. And the guy actually reached out to us, now, I mean, I know how it goes now. Like the coaching business is like, you can break things apart. You can maneuver things around. Right. But I didn't know everything back then. And he comes to me and goes, hey, I can do this 1 3-day class for $25,000.
Right.
And then so we were told, okay, we can't do it all at one time, and then worked out a payment plan. And my aunt was like, she didn't have it.
Right.
But she had talked to her boss, and her boss was going to let her put like $11,000 on his American Express card.
Wow.
And she had an American Express card with that match limit on it, or more than that, but enough to cover that.
Right.
And she was going to cover it the next month. So her boss agreed to do it for a month, and then she was going to do it for a month. So I had 60 days to make this money back that we were spending on this coaching program.
Right. And so your aunt definitely saw something in you to want to do all that, right?
You know what? I don't know what she saw in me, but she saw it in me since I was little, and probably it wasn't even there yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? To see. You know what I mean? So it's probably more faith than seeing.
Right.
But she's more like my mother than anything else. She's not really like an aunt.
Right.
So we did that. And so she said, and she looked it up before, in these coaching classes. We're driving to Fort Worth for our first class. And she's like, I looked it up, and they said this coaching stuff's a scam. And they said we just spent all our money on nothing, and this guy's going to prison. And all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, no pressure here, right? I'm like, oh. But by noon on the first day, I knew the information was real. Mm-hmm. I knew I could take that and make money. And so I came back, and that first Monday back from that 3-day class.
Right.
Actually, the guy said there was 150 people in the class, and the teacher goes, out of all of y'all, there's probably 2 of you that will do anything with this information. Only 2 of you out of 100, and y'all all, and most of them paid like 70 grand to be there.
And most of them probably gave up at that point.
Yeah. And I heard a lady at lunch on the first day, like I was there with my aunt, and I tell my aunt, man, this is awesome. I know what to do now, because we knew the rehabbing part. The lady was a realtor from Louisiana with her daughter, and the daughter was about 35, and the mother was probably in her 50s, 60s, whatever. But they were older. She was older, and she was like, I told you this was a scam. This is just like being a realtor. They were already realtors. This is just like having another realtor job. And I'm over here with one mindset, like, God, this is my key to money without having money. And they're like, this is a job. This isn't work. It's a scam. And we heard the same thing. We heard the same thing.
Right. She had a closed mind.
Different mindsets on it. And so he said, the only 2 of y'all do it. I went up to him before I left, and I shook his hand. I was like, his name's actually Jimmy Reed from Fort Worth. He still mentors. And I shook his hand. I said, hey, I just want to tell you I'm one of those 2. And at that time, I'm sure everybody says that. So oh man, it's nice to meet you. Hi, my name is Jimmy.
How old were you? How old were you at the time?
I was 21. 22.
Yeah. So he's probably y'all young kid.
Right.
He didn't know what he's doing in life.
He said, send us pictures of your checks, though. So I started, and fax back then. It was fax. I faxed him.
There was no Facebook.
and I actually connected with him on Facebook recently through somebody else that knew him. So it's cool that I got to reconnect with him on Facebook. But yeah,
have you gone back and talked to him and told him?
I haven't got to
shook
talk to
his hand and said, "I'm one."
No, I haven't told him that story yet. But
awesome.
I want to go meet him one day and go talk to him again. But that'd be awesome. Yeah, he said that. So I remember I came back. So I set up a little card table the first Monday back in my house and my box, my shed. My wife went to work. She had a job in a mortgage company, working the front desk, and set it up. I'm doing everything he told me to do. Looking on the green sheet had just come online back then, I think.
Right.
So I'm looking on the green sheet online, doing stuff. My wife comes back in the door at lunch, crying. Just bawling. And I'm like, dude, I haven't even had enough time to mess anything up yet. This can't be me. Right. What I do? And she hands me a bag from Walgreens with 3 pregnancy tests in it. So it's November 22nd of 04. So 03 was when we stopped the houses, and 04 is when I started this. So November 22nd, 04 is my first day starting wholesaling. And she tells me this. And I said, don't tell anybody, because the guy said we can make $5,000 in the next 30 days. And I said, and I was planning on making a payment on the loan, but we'll work it out.
Right.
And then so I just did everything they said. And on my 28th day from starting, I hit my first deal for $14,000.
Wow.
And was able to pay back $11,000 and use $1,500 to get an apartment. Which we didn't tell anybody we were pregnant yet. So we got the apartment. It's a crappy apartment. It's off TC Jester and 18th over there. Right. And back then it was real bad. Now it's nice.
But it's an upgrade from the shed.
But it's an upgrade. I loved it. It was like a castle to me there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't care it had a chiller system and it was hot. The heater was on when it was hot. You know what I mean? So, and then we, so $1,500 for apartment, and then $11,000 toward the payment, and $1,500 for marketing. And then hit a deal for $4,000, a deal for $6,000, a deal for $8,000, and ended up making $169,000 the first year wholesale.
Wow! And do you remember what were we using for marketing back then?
Bandit signs and green sheet. Like the first deal I ever did came off the green sheet.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's interesting that you say that. Being a coach now, you've seen when you started, somebody just cut a check for $70K, and then they'd already decided that this doesn't work.
Yes.
So their perception was their reality in every case.
Right.
But you started without any education, but you were a doer. It seems like that's the difference between what you did back then and what you continue to teach today. What's that experience like with coaching, being on the other side, trying to help people realize their dream? What happens when you want it more than them? Like, what does that look like?
That's very interesting, actually. So in our system, the things that we've implemented is accountability. So we have accountabilities that we are able to keep up with our students because, and it's the way we instill them and the way we implement our accountabilities, because you're right. I mean, like, somebody can come in and it doesn't matter how much you write a check for on coaching. If you're not going to put in the effort, you're not going to get the results.
Right.
But what happens is most people get information and they don't get a breakdown of what to do and how to be accountable for it.
Right.
So that's more of what we do, because really we do the real estate business already. You know what I mean? We actually market, we actually wholesale, we actually get contracts, we actually have buyers on our list. So we're doing the business. We're able to systematically clone our business with some of our students, or depending on what they're trying to achieve. If they want to copy a franchise like model, then we can do that. And if they're just trying to get their first deal done, it's more just about doing the smaller accountability.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I'm sure, just like y'all. You know?
Right. And so right now, so what does your wholesale business look like now? I know that you're doing wholesaling. You're also doing some flipping, buying some rentals, that kind of thing. So what does it look like now?
Mostly, me and my girlfriend are looking to build our rental portfolio. I liquidated about 5 years ago, had about 27 rentals at that point. Liquidated. I went through a divorce about 5 years ago. And then about the beginning of last year, I kind of took off all of last year. Not took off, but was kind of slow on the wholesaling and all the buying and stuff, just because I was dealing with some medical issues and some stuff like that. So I was still doing stuff, but going slow. And we picked up about 7 rentals last year. Okay. So that was kind of slow. So this year we're looking to at least double that and hopefully triple that for our own personal portfolio. Right. And then again, wholesaling is pretty easy. We got four acquisition guys, so we should do over 100 wholesales this year. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. And so you're looking at of course, that's your, long term is what you're looking at, the rental properties, things like that. Yes. Right. And we'll talk about that here in just a second for those wholesalers that are out there. And then for your wholesale business, you have 4 acquisition people. They're going out seeing people. So what does the marketing look like now? I imagine the green sheet is not around like they used to be. Green sheet brings you buyers. So they may not be around. I don't even know if they. I think they just they may have just shut down like recently. Really? All online. I think I've seen them at the store. Yeah. So I don't know if people are looking. Are the people that are buying from us? Maybe, but I don't know. But so what is marketing look like now in your business? It looks expensive now. That's what it looks like. So we send out about 30 to 60,000 postcards a month. Okay. And some of that is co-op. We do some co-op with our elite clients and stuff like that, so they'll get the same kind of marketing we get. Right. But usually we'll hit every zip code in Houston or Harris County at least 4 times a year, or 4 times a year, because we hit it every 3 months. Right. And so we hit all the zip codes 4 times a year, and except for like River Oaks and the high priced, right? Like the super high price. Like we'll go into like some of like the $600 to $1 million price range, but like 5, 6, 10 million. Right. Yeah. And buyer's pool goes down. Right. So, right. So we still market everywhere there. So we hit every zip code. And when we get the return phone calls, matter of fact, I think we just did the numbers. We did like $365,000 or $375,000 in postcard and letter marketing in the past 2 years. And we had about 7,800 calls that came in off of that marketing. Okay. So we got deals off of that marketing, but that's one of our things is we're following up on those as one of our main pipelines also. Our main marketing avenues is follow-ups. Right. So we do that. We continue to market new. We do skip tracing and cold calling in certain areas that we're trying to target. Right. So we do a variety of different things to be able to keep the volume up. Right. And so with direct mail, so in our market, are you noticing did you notice like an increase in cost per buy going up for direct mail? That's why you're doing the other things as well? Yes. And that's exactly why we're pushing the follow-ups even more. Right. Even text blasting, email blasting, follow-ups it's not just the phone call anymore. It's not just the random text, and it's mass numbers. Right. Like your numbers have to be up. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah. And I look back, I hadn't been doing this that long, in the last 4 years, it's changed just drastically in the amount of mail you can send to the amount of phone calls you would get. Now, of course, you have to send a lot of mail, but you have to be more strategic with it now. Like you said, you have to have a great follow-up program, because if you're not following up, then you're just wasting money and you're going to see the dollars just climb. So when people say that direct mail doesn't work, it works, but you have to make sure you're working it. Like you can't just spray in and let it go. Better now than you ever have before. Right. About 4 years ago, the return on postcards, we were getting about a 3% return. Right. Postcard. Like, yeah. Postcard. Wow. Yeah. 3% returns on postcard. Oh, I've had as high as a 5%, 6% return, like when nobody else is doing it, like right when you're coming off a dead market. Right. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been even wholesaling through like if you started at the bottom of the market, like when after the crash and continued from there, you don't know what it was like going through that crash. Right. You don't know what the market changed. Like there was like 40 big name wholesalers and they all got wiped out. All the rehabbers are gone. I mean, a handful of the investors that were wholesaling and doing stuff were still around after that. Right. Like the Eddie Gants and the Will Denkers and there was a guy, Andy Davies, that was pretty big back then. And he's buying and holding now. And a few other guys, handful like that. And then you had the new age that came in after that, like Tom Berry, who came in and crushed everything. But like it knocked out a lot of people. Right. Yep. And I sold a deal to a guy because I had a lot of inventory, but I didn't have any buyers. And there was an older guy. And I said, why are you buying? Nobody else is buying. And he said, man, I'm going to tell you right now. He's like, I bought in the 80s when everything crashed. And And he said, I started selling in three years. I started selling. In 5 years, I sold it all. I made my first 2 million liquid.
Okay.
And that's when I realized I was like, in that market, it's a different buyer who's buying. Right. So all the rehabbers went out of business, but all the landlords were coming out of the woodworks to buy.
They were buying.
So that's
all the real buyers.
Yeah, the real buyers. And then I actually, that's who I started marketing for and looking for those buyers, and then realizing the wealth is in the long-term hold.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and now we're starting to hear that again. Like you turn on Facebook or the news, and you're hearing that is there going to be another housing crisis that comes up? Right, the market is changing. You hear a lot of it, and you probably been hearing it since like it rebounded, right? Yeah. But now you're hearing more of it. So what do you think about the market right now? And from going through it before and seeing the market fall and taking opportunities, what do you see the market at now? And how could someone who's getting started in this business or has a wholesale business, or what should they be doing at this point?
Well, the difference that I see now is Houston's a lot more diverse than it used to be as far as economically. It used to be a lot more oil and gas related. Now it's oil, gas, energy, because we're going all different kind of energies. And then we have more industries all coming in Houston. So, and I'm just glad we're in Houston. That's the biggest thing. I do believe there's going to be a correction. I believe it'll happen in the next year to 3 years. But it's going to be a correction, not a crash. I don't see a crash. And especially I don't see a crash in Houston.
Right.
People don't even understand how bad everybody else got affected in 2008. I had 5 rehabs going on and I lost $100,000 in 7 months on rehabs because I didn't know then what I know now. I would have refinanced them, kept them as rentals. Like 2 years later, that one I sold for $240 sold for $550.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because I panicked and sold just to pay off the loan and lost the money I had into the rehab. But anyway, so I know what I've learned through going through that.
Right.
So I would have refinanced those, kept those. No, it's completely different.
Right. Right. So you would say if it was, though, is that the rental properties would be the way to go? Because it looks like before, those are the people who they bought when everything was low. And then, of course, prices, were able to raise. And now they're probably set.
Especially if you're a wholesaler and you're getting them at wholesale prices and able to buy them and keep. So if you wholesale 4 properties and keep 1, which should be your goal as a wholesaler, wholesale 3 to 4 and then keep 1. Wholesale 3 to 4, keep 1.
I like that.
Don't go buy the jeans and shoes.
Right. That's good advice right there. And that's
no Bentley.
No.
You can't get the Bentley
until your assets pay for your car.
Then you go get the Bentley.
Then you go get it.
I like that. Yeah. And which is that's in the wholesale arena, that's usually the opposite of what's taught, right? So when you look at what's popular out there, you see people flashing $100,000 checks, they're driving around Lamborghinis and things like that, right?
I'm all for that.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with that. But like you said, then their assets is not paying for those liabilities, and really can't afford it. And things dry up.
And then if that's what they're choosing to do, that's what they're choosing to do.
Right.
But you as the consumer. Because there's a lot of marketing too. You know what I mean? Like I know the business because I'm in it. You know what I mean? Like I have a nice car because I like to drive fast and like nice cars.
Right.
But I also know that people look at nice cars and they're going, oh man,
must be doing well. Car. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Plus my car is paid for by my business.
Yeah.
My car is free to me. Yeah. My car is paid for by my business because it's a write-off on my taxes.
Right.
I drive that car for free. I get paid by my business to drive my car.
Right.
So if you do things correctly, you can do things the right way.
Right.
You know what I mean? It all depends on how you do it.
So
you can still have the flashy stuff. Know how to do it. Don't make a $20,000 check and go spend 10 of it in Las Vegas.
Right. Yeah. Don't let that first check come and then you go buy the car.
Yeah.
And then you can't market.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can't market. So,
right. You can't market after that.
And that's probably the biggest issue I see is like you get a check and then you don't realize you got to pay taxes out of that because wholesale, they don't take your taxes out of it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And when we've heard people even on the owner finance, which is, it's kind of like a long-term wholesale play. And we've heard people say the exact same thing on owner finance, that they wish they would have maybe bought the property and kept it as a rental because they bought them in areas that were up and coming, and the house that they owner financed out for $50,000 is worth like $300,000-$400,000 now. And if they would have kept it, but they made the owner of the house rich, so because that's something to be mindful of. When you're out there creating wealth, and especially in with wholesalers, because we're finding the property. We already have it at a discount. So like you said, maybe come up with a formula. Maybe that's 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 you decide to keep and start building your rental portfolio.
I personally am buying in Sunnyside right now. And if I can be in with repairs and everything for 70 to 80 and the house is worth 130, 140 when I'm done, I'm happy.
Right.
And these same houses that I'm willing to pay that much for now, we were wholesaling for $16,000, $12,000, $9,000 5 years ago.
Yeah. 4 years ago.
And you see that change.
And I sold it for 22.
Yeah.
Things are changing.
Things have seriously changed.
It's street by street, but eventually it's going to take the, the whole area will
picking
take
them
over.
up for 22 to 30 now.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we used to pick them up for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's how bad it was.
Well, selling that one at 22, I was bragging about it.
Yeah.
It went for 22 back in that day. It's amazing how much it's changed.
Exactly.
Right.
That was the last deal I did in Sunnyside for a while because it wasn't my model.
Yeah.
Right. So I was a flipper at that time, and I came back to wholesaling, and I look at Sunnyside, and I'm like, what happened?
Yes.
Like, it was nuts.
Now, can you imagine if you wouldn't bought up all the lots in there? I know that my friend George, he's developing in Fifth Ward.
Right.
And he's buying lots super cheap, but he found a guy over there that he found that started buying 4 or 5 years ago, bought these lots for $3,000 at the auctions.
Wow.
And then he held on to like 100 lots and built on them. And now those townhouses are all selling for like $230,000 a pop.
Wow. And you see them popping up like crazy over there also.
$3,000 for the lot, and he's the builder. I mean, imagine that. And he has like 100 of them.
Right.
And there's 2 houses on each lot because he split the lots.
Right.
Yeah. So no, I mean,
so this guy looks like a genius now.
Well, I mean, think about it. You know Oak Forest.
Yeah.
Forest.
Yeah, absolutely.
I grew up in Oak Forest.
Right.
Oak Forest, 25 years ago, I was with my aunt, the aunt that's like my mom, when her at the time, her husband, before he passed away, were looking for a house. And I remember looking at a house for her and going, oh, 60,000. I don't know if this house is worth 60,000. I don't, we got to get a loan on it. And I remember, and they were looking at a house for 60,000 in Oak Forest.
Yeah,
I see that
not happening
all the time. It's down a road that I drive down, and I see it, and that house sold for like $540 now.
Wow.
And that just tells you. So if you could get a time machine, what would you do?
Right.
Okay.
I would definitely.
What is the time machine?
So what's the next area of Houston?
Acres Homes, Sunnyside, Fifth Ward.
Yep.
That's your Oak Forest. That's your Westbury. That's your Bel Air.
And that's where a lot of land.
Third Ward's already big.
It's already
done.
Yeah, it's already done.
Blew up.
But you look at, like you said, Sunnyside, Acres Home, a lot of land, right? And you figure Oak Forest and all that has to grow. Also, can't go any further past 610, so all that gets to come in.
So Sunnyside has a tariff in there, so all the tax dollars that are spent. That's why I like it. Is because if you've driven down Martin Luther King, you notice the roads are not raggedy anymore. There's 3 lanes on each side. Brand new, which also means there's brand new sewers underneath. They rehab the streets. So there's a tariff over there. All the tax dollars spent in that zip code and that area has to be reinvested in that area, just like the Galleria. So they're building, so it's coming up. So if you're an investor and you're buying properties, I want to buy where the city's rehabbing the streets.
Right. And I call that growing up investing, right? Yeah. So, a lot of wholesalers, they come in and a lot of times they don't see that opportunity, right? So they look at right now says I can make 20,000 on that wholesale fee, which is great. But then you give up the other 300,000 that you could have had down the road.
As long as it's a decision.
You're right.
Well, if you understand that.
Right.
I believe wholesaling is an evolution. Yeah, so in your career, right? It's an evolutionary state. So
correct.
You start as a wholesaler. You should never stay a wholesaler. Like myself, I don't see myself as a wholesaler. I own a wholesale company.
Right.
Because we wholesale every single deal, but I also buy some of the deals we wholesale. It's just like a buyer on our list. I'll buy it. So it's an all around thing, but we still wholesale everything. But it should be evolutionary as you start there to make cash.
Right.
And then this is why I think there's never going to be an end for people learning how to wholesale. Because once you learn and get good at it and you make enough cash, you become a landlord or you become a rehabber. And then, or you become a business owner where you structure people to, and really that's more of a pipeline for yourself and everything and to supply people. So that's the evolution of it. You should never stay just wholesaling.
Right.
You know what I mean? Unless you have a wholesale company. You know what I mean?
And that's why I say it's grown up investing at that point, right? Yeah, so now you started at the infancy stage as a with the wholesaling, which there's like I said, wholesaling is great and we'll continue to wholesale just like you're continuing to wholesale. But at one point you got to make that decision of, am I going to continue to make other people rich, or am I going to think about my kids and my family and think about the long term at that point, right?
Exactly.
So that's great. And so now, so I know that you have an education business as well, all right? So how did you get into that? And so how's that work? Are you working with multiple like wholesalers and landlords? Or how's that work?
It's actually all the way around. We teach people all the way from wholesaling to wholetailing to rehabbing to, keeping rentals, and so it's a full service, full all the way around education company.
Mm-hmm.
The way it started was I was virtual. Like no one ever, like you probably heard my name. I remember the first time I met Eddie Gant. He was like, I didn't think you were real. I got your email, didn't even think you were real.
I keep hearing his name.
AC Ramos. But first time I ever met him, he was like, man, I've been getting your emails for years, but I never met you. And like, so I got that response from a lot of people. I had partnered with a guy who did an interview with me on the internet back then. He was my first business partner, Tim Mai. And he did a podcast kind of show with me. And then we interviewed on the thing, and then we just hit it off. And then we met for lunch. And he was telling me about his goal of contributing to the world and caring and contributing to the success of others.
Right.
And I was like, dude, I'm totally down for that. You know what I mean? And our goal was to create 100 millionaires.
Okay.
No, 100 people to do their first deal. That's what it was. The first goal was
right.
100 people to do their first deal, and 100% success rate with our clients.
Uh-huh.
So that's what we went into the business with. That was our motto, our stance there.
Right.
So, and then that's what we started doing. We started taking on clients and trying to get them to do their first deal and trying to get everyone to do a deal.
Right.
And then it just kind of grew from there. We had a lot of students that were able to do over 6 figures in their first year.
Okay.
And then we started like cloning more of our business with some of our elite clients that started taking it more to like the franchise level and like,
right.
And now there's a lot of them that there's like 3 or 4 students that have big businesses here in town, like making millions of dollars a year now.
Right.
Yeah. We have multiple students making millions.
Right. And that's amazing to have, people come to you, even though you might not hear from them, but you see it and you're like, man, or they come to you and say, I definitely appreciate it. You don't know where I was at in my life when you came into it. And it's a different feeling when people come back and, you're not asking for it, but it just comes around the corner. Right.
Because like whoever, if I can impact somebody's life and then say, I teach somebody, educate them, show them how to do the business, set up their business. They do well. They have employees, they have family, they have people that prosper off of that setup. And then they go on and continue, then that's the legacy.
Right.
Yep,
that's
absolutely.
what I do it for. You know what I mean? And it kind of, because like when you were saying like everybody's kind of connected, is because I feel like I've tried to help a lot of people. And like, so that makes me feel good when I hear that. Like even my own guys, they'll be like, I was hanging out Bandit Signs, I was doing this, and this guy stopped and said, who are you working for? And I said, I'm working for AC. And they were like, oh, all right, never mind, I know him. they keep going. And it's good. I like the fact that I can have that kind of impact.
Right.
It's awesome that you started with helping people, and it just shows. I've met at least 10 of your proteges before I met you.
Oh,
right.
So before I'd even seen you, actually, I'd seen you a lot.
Same with me. Yeah.
But I was like, I don't want to go talk to me. You don't want to talk to me.
Right.
But
that's funny. A lot of people tell me that.
Right.
I'm like, dude, I'll talk to you.
Yeah. Well, now that I know you, you're so approachable. It was all in my head. It was just perception.
Yeah.
She's like, dude, you talk to the people at the convenience store line, and you're holding up the line. And let's go.
Right.
Yep. So,
yeah.
But it's great that you started with helping people. I mean, that was your focus in getting started in education. It's like, how can I make a difference in their life? And there's so many guys out there that it seems that they just fail at this business and then they want to go into coaching.
Right.
Because there is an education factor to it.
Right.
But it's not so much, if you're going into coaching for revenue and not to help people, that's where
there's
go wrong.
Difference. I say that all the time. If your coach or mentor is not there's a difference in doing deals with your students and then getting all your deals from your students. Right. like that's the only deals you do is with your students.
Right.
We have a company where we do deals and then we help our students do deals and we do deals with them. But we are constantly doing deals. Like if somebody's out there coaching and mentoring and they don't have their own marketing, own real ways of getting deals, and they're not doing deals, that's not what you want to copy, because then how are they going to teach you to copy to be them, to get somebody to give them deals?
Yeah. And of course they're not doing it. It's funny thing is we have a segment called Don't Be That Guy. And that was one of the things we talked about last was don't be the guy that's never done a deal, but now you have a coaching program, right? Which is crazy. You see it all the time. It's like, man, it's not even, I don't think he's ever closed a deal, but now he's coaching.
I've seen a student of one of my students start a coaching company and only done like 1 or 2 deals.
Like,
and I was like, wow.
Yeah, you don't even have, you barely know how to open title. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, first step, do nothing. I got that one down. So what would you say to for the new wholesaler that's just getting started? Like, what advice would you give them?
First of all, copy. Like, dude, that's what coaching and mentoring is copy.
Right.
And whether you're paying for it or learning it on your own, like you can learn everything on YouTube.
Right.
Now, I believe paying the big bucks to get like a franchise model is worth it because I did it. You know what I mean? And I got the layout. Now, I know I could have put it together through YouTube and stuff, and it would have took me 2 or 3 more years.
Right.
And I made $169,000 in my first year. Do I want to struggle and make 20 or 30 in my first year, 40 in my next year? Or do I want to just jump into making money because I have everything?
Right.
So whatever you can do, I would do it.
Right.
But learn from somebody who's doing it and then take the action to do what they're showing.
Right. Right. And we echo that. Right. So we can say that, when I first got started, I was looking on YouTube and piecing things together, and I had a basic understanding. But the business didn't really explode until I went and put money out. Right. And I started investing money into my education. And like you said, whether it was $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, that the money that I invested, it's just like your marketing, right? I put $1 in, I got $10, $20 back, and you don't even know it's infinite because the knowledge that you get and the people that you are surrounded by, those relationships last a lifetime. You never know when an opportunity is going to come from one of those people that you met in the room. It could be 10 years from now, but it continues to pay off. So, don't be afraid to invest in your education and invest in your business, right?
Yeah, we continuously pay to be in rooms.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know y'all are in masterminds too. I'm in masterminds. I mean, like, people don't understand that it doesn't matter what level you're at.
Right.
If you're not trying to go further, then I don't know what you're doing.
Right.
I mean, like, you should always, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Right.
So if you think you've learned everything, that's when your business starts to die. Because especially in this business, it is so evolving all the time and changing. Laws, techniques, tips, skills, tricks. No, you have to be constantly on it. I invest a lot in my own education still.
Right. Okay. And so definitely, this is probably an honor for us to be able to talk to you today. So definitely excited. Yeah, definitely appreciate you for taking the time to come over. I know that you're not too far from here, so that definitely, I guess that was a plus for us also for you coming out and coming over to the studio. But for those who want to get in contact with you, maybe they want to learn, maybe they want to come out and see what your coaching is about and all that good stuff. So how do they reach out to you?
Man, you can find us at prosperitygroup.com. That's our website, and it tells you about our next upcoming events and dates. You can find me on Facebook at AC Ramos on Facebook. If I'm full, follow me. I think my friends is full there. But you can find me on Instagram at AC_Ramos_, and that one's unlimited. So those are the best ways to watch me. It's kind of just all around.
All right. So he's everywhere. He's legendary. So I want to thank everyone for listening today. Again, just remember, we have our monthly meetup the first Monday of each month. It's at the Hilton Garden Inn near the Willowbrook area. So come out. It's a room full of wholesalers, and we just try to drop the knowledge on everyone. But it's a good way to network, right? You get a chance to talk to other wholesalers and network. Again, you can like and subscribe to our podcast. Also, we have the Wholesale Nation Facebook group. You go there and enter your information, and if you qualify, we'll accept you into the group. But it's a good way for us to be able to speak directly to you. But again, we want to thank everyone for listening today. Y'all come back now. You hear?